And welcome to the EU Masters Spring Final. The stage is set for an epic battle between our next European superstars. LDLC are succeeding after years of struggling, but in their way stands the last hope of Poland looking to complete the miracle run. I'm Quickshot, joined by Ender and Trouble as we dive into the Spring Finals.
Honestly, I'm just so excited for today's matchup. And you know, I've watched a lot of EU Masters finals in the past, and I don't think any of them have felt like this. The hype and all the stuff that's going around, there's like this social media movement I've never seen anything come close to, and it's just making the games today look even better than before.
And it's kind of been the case for the entire tournament, right? We've sort of had our favorites at the start. We're like, yeah, maybe the Prime League, maybe some, like maybe the first seed of the LFL. These are both two seeds, show the LFL and an underdog.
Yeah, definitely the case. I mean, let's talk about the semi-finals yesterday. Both LDLC and K1ck managing to pick up those victories. LDLC, after dropping game one, bounced back and then dominated Rogue in the next two games. I mean, Ender, it felt to me like it was just the TynX show, and I don't really know if there's much else you can really analyze there.
Yeah, I mean, in every single game, TynX jumped out to at least a 2-level lead out of the jungle, and game one, maybe there were some draft issues we were pointing at, but they really bounced back after that, geared up comps that were gonna, you know, supposed to out team fight you, but all of a sudden TynX is jumping out to these ridiculous early game leads, constantly invading the enemy jungle, getting these early ganks off, and just shutting down any chance that Rogue ever thought they had.
And yesterday, if I'm not wrong, TynX mentioned that he really wants to face Movistar Riders because he wants to play against Elyoya. I feel that he's going to get much more competition playing against Shlatan.
Yeah, absolutely no doubt about it. I mean, yesterday, when we looked at how K1ck won both of their games, that was about two of the hardest stomps that I've seen in a while. I mean, Trouble, you were casting that game. It feels as though K1ck are coming into this with a lot more momentum.
Honestly, I felt the games were going to go all three. We're going to see a nail-biting 3-game series. It wasn't the case. K1ck came in, pretty clean game plan. They knew exactly how they wanted to execute. They were pretty much playing the K1ck style, very early game aggression. They were giving the priority to Matislaw, unlocking Shlatan, unleash him everywhere on the map, and they just ended super quickly.
And it was primarily about attacking through the mid lane first, right? The jungle mid pairing is something we bring up a lot when we talk about K1ck, but when it is Shlatan on a Lee Sin and Matislaw on something that can make plays and pop off early on, that is a power duo that is hard to contest.
Yeah, absolutely the case. And I mean, when we look at exactly how these teams got here, if you take a look at the bracket, one of the things that I absolutely love, the second seed from France, LDLC, eliminates the number one seed Rogue from the Ultra League of Poland. But if you look at the very bottom of that graphic, K1ck were able to eliminate the number one seed from the LFL. This is a France versus Poland rivalry that has made it all the way to finals. And for LDLC in particular, this is a roster that has not made it past quarterfinals. 2019 quarterfinal dropouts at both EU Masters, second in spring within their regional league, and then now they seem to be warming up and ramping up as the tournament's progressed.
Which is like a huge surprise to me, at least, because when I was casting EU Masters in last spring, LDLC came into the tournament as one of the favorites of the whole thing. And, you know, I hear their name thrown out all the time when they come into EU Masters, and it's like, they're supposed to win, and they usually disappointed. But this year, no one was saying they're the best team in EU Masters, but all of a sudden, they have the chance to prove it right here today.
And there's a difference between, I think I've said it before, being the favorite and becoming the favorite. I think both of these teams came in number two under the spotlight of their first seed in their respective regions, and they've proven to be the better teams here.
If you determine favorites and strength based on fan sentiment, public support, welling of fans getting behind the squad, K1ck have absolutely blown this one out the water. This is a team that went all the way from play-ins to the final. They've secured Poland's first final appearance since spring of 2018, where Illuminar fell short, and they're looking to pick up the first Ultra Liga EU Masters victory for Poland. I mean, it's an all-Polish roster. It is a massive, massive achievement. And Trouble, like, you can feel the energy from the fan base and from the viewers.
I think it sort of hits home specifically because it is that all Polish roster. You know, they're all homegrown talent from Poland. First seed, they've done it so well so far, such convincing wins. They've got a really strong playstyle that they really stand behind, and it really shows that they're actually really enjoying the game they're playing.
Yeah.
And I think this is showing to everyone.
Yeah, and in a tournament that's been largely dictated by, later scaling drafts, which team can actually team fight better in those high pressure late game situations, K1ck is actually a squad that tries to defy that just a little bit. Sure, they can beat you in the team fights as well, but looking at how they play their early games with Shlatan spearheading the whole operation on these super high impact picks out of the jungle, this is a team that is not afraid to get down and dirty early on into the game and just try to break things wide open.
I mean, we saw that yesterday. They absolutely obliterated Riders. Like, 2 23, 25-minute victories. It was fantastic. Look, before we talk a little bit more about K1ck's playstyle, their tendencies, their preferences, we do have to get a little bit more insight on Puki Style, the internet sensation. And to help us give it a little bit more context, I'd like to welcome the Fake One of the shoutcasters from the Ultra Liga. Thank you for joining us, Fake One. Can you introduce yourself to the English viewers and the rest of the EU Masters crowd?
Hi there, Chef. My name is Tom, but I'm probably more known as the Fake One. I used to do some journalist work back in the days, but for a few years now I've been color casting League of Legends in Poland.
Amazing. Well, listen, how does it feel to see K1ck in the finals? And give me a little bit of context on what it means for Ultra Liga and for Poland to see all of this support and see K1ck with a real shot at winning EU Masters.
Well, listen, if you ask me, any team in the finals would make me happy, but K1ck especially, since they have so many likable characters. Like, you have Ebo, who's been in the 2018 finals as well. You have Puki Style. Obviously, you cannot miss this guy. At this point, everyone knows him. But I think what makes the team so good is that not only they have those great characters, they're also really good at League of Legends. And it's also important to mention the team's coach, Delord. He's a very popular guy in the Polish community, and he seems to be doing pretty well in his rookie year as a coach.
I mean, definitely. First time appearance here at EU Masters with the team. They make it all the way to the final. Look, you need to give a little bit more context on Puki Style. I know this guy goes way back. I know he's been playing for a very long time. Yeah. I've read some of the stories online, but maybe not everybody has. So let's tell the rest of the viewers why every freaking esports personality is now using a photo of his bicep on social media.
Well, Puki is a delight to talk about, This guy is just one of the most positive human beings I've ever met. Whenever I roam around the Ultraliga studio, he's always this vibrant and bright energy, And he's also a legend on the Polish scene. He has been playing since the beta, and he's playing professionally for 9 years now. Has almost made it to Season 2 Worlds, where he competed in the European Regional Finals. Unfortunately, K1ck knocked TynX out, which was pretty sad at the point. But hey, Puki has played middle, by the way, at that point in time.
Yeah, definitely. I actually remember that. He was playing for Team Acer. I think YellOwStaR was actually playing on that SK Gaming roster.
Yes, he was.
I think Puki shared a photo of him and YellOwStaR on stage from that event in 2011 or 12.
Yep.
Very, very long time ago. Okay, look, we've set the scene. We know the emotional stakes. I need to get your opinion now on the team's actual performance and expectations. Who do you think is going to win this final, and what will it come down to?
I think this will be a close match. Like, honestly, before the finals, before the tournament started, I didn't think those would be the two teams we'll see in the finals. But both of them share some qualities. I think they both are quite early game oriented team. I think both TynX and Shlatan are very important for their respective teams. But I think in the case of LDLC, it's more TynX and YellOwStaR, the duo of death in jungle and support. While in the case of K1ck, I feel like it's more Shlatan and Matislaw, who are very, very good as a mid jungle, and I think this might end up being the difference where I think Rogue was too weak in the department. I think Shlatan and Matislaw will be good enough to beat LDLC. So my final prediction would be 3-2 for the Poles.
3-2 for the Poles. Polskie Górom, is that right?
Polskie Górom! There
we go. The Fake One, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoy the show. K1ck are going to be facing a tough challenge today versus LDLC and their superstar TynX. This is the MVP video from the LFL Spring Split made by OGaming.
Qui va très bien jouer. encore récupérer quelque chose de quelqu'un qui tente de bloquer et ça passe. Magnifique.
I never met a match I couldn't handle. No one else could ever hold a candle. Get ready for a battle, cause you know. Faisons ce qui doit être fait.
Un très gros airflag derrière le follow-up d'LDLC se met en place. Vétheo qui connecte sa chaîne, Mood c'est complètement abandonné. Ça va être prenissant d'équiper les...
This guy you just saw on your screen, TynX, has been playing the game competitively for 4 years now. He started showing up in 2018 playing for Gamers Origin and having his first appearance at EU Masters. 2019 was an experimental year for him and he was trying to find his home. Finally though, in 2020, TynX and LDLC might have not been able to take first seed in the LFL, but they find themselves in the finals of EU Masters with a very convincing performance so far. With his motto being no fear, he has showed an incredible amount of versatility in the jungle, playing the early game aggression on champions like Lee Sin, Raxxo and Elise to the resident sleeper but very effective late game likes of Karthus and Graves, and has even pulled the solo queue special AP Shyvana. His is to face and beat a team that he has previously played for and claimed the EU Masters 2020 Spring Champion title.
It feels like the world is against him today, somewhat. A lot of fans and support for K1ck, and there's no doubt about TynX's ability. I really liked what the fake1 was talking about, how TynX and YellOwStaR have kind of been the deadly duo, as he put it. Yesterday, seeing the Yuumi and the Trundle combination was quite scary. And YellOwStaR, a fellow boomer like myself, he said to himself, a boomer in the final. I have to appreciate that. That's definitely where my eyes are going to be, what level of performance TynX and YellOwStaR will bring to the table today, because I think they can help unlock LDLC's chances at picking up the title.
And I think they've been taking a lot of the spotlight recently, but I have to look at the other part of that bot lane pairing, which is Hades, right? This guy might not be the household name that is YellOwStaR, but he's absolutely popping off. If you saw him in that series yesterday, on picks even like the Yasuo, he's been absolutely crazy. But he has a history of his own as well, right? Played at MSI with Fenerbahce in the past, coming into this EU Masters, coming into yesterday's matchup, had a KDA of over 30, and while he did die a few times, he still has a KDA of 15, making it the best remaining and overall in the tournament.
KDA player, shocking.
He's,
no, but it is good. No, it is good, of course.
Hey, he plays Yasuo. What do you expect?
And that was most impressive. I think he gave up one death on that Yasuo game. But look, let's zoom out a little bit and see how are these two teams going to clash. We've talked about kind of an overview. I think on LDLC's side, they've shown much more like variance in their play over the course of EU Masters. And the fake1 was talking about how the duo of jungle support LC was going to be what does it for them, but he felt that Matislaw and Shlatan could be the difference maker. What do you think, Trouble?
Well, I mean, come on. It is very obvious what K1ck is trying to do, right? And even though, yes, I've heard Ender over and over, he's like, Shlatan is so good on that Lee Sin. Yes, but for that Lee Sin to board the hype train, it is Matislaw that has to stamp his ticket through. Matislaw has been around the competitive League of Legends scene for 5 years, has claimed multiple first places in various tournaments across 2019, as well as showing up for the first time at EU Masters in summer 2019. seen. This year though, Matislaw and k1ck are following the footsteps of the Cinderella story that Big established as a tradition now last split. The potential to go from play-ins to champions. One of the most consistent players in my opinion of the tournament, Matislaw plays a very key role in his team, which as we mentioned is unlocking his jungler Shlatan by gaining continuous advantages through the mid lane, whether it's priority in lane, favorable trades and kills, on even unfavorable matchups. Something I really want to touch on though is that this guy has only showed 4 picks so far in EU Masters, but don't be fooled, because in Ultra Liga Season 3, he brought out a total of 12 unique champions, and who knows, maybe he has even more in store for today.
Oh, I like it. I like it a lot, especially because you talk about how Matislaw can sort of unlock his jungler, do crazy things on the map. I think that whoever can get control over this mid lane, especially considering that Vétheo plays a lot of these melee champions once the LeBlancs and the Zoes of the world start to get banned away. Like, all of a sudden, if Matt pushing in mid, it becomes really hard for TynX to play the same style where he likes to run into the enemy jungle sometimes and get aggressive. So you have to look at it as the full picture, and that's why even though TynX coming into the matchup looking so good in yesterday's games, it's going to be a tough one for him to try and overcome here in the overall 2v2.
Yeah, it absolutely is. We are just a few moments away from picks and bans, and as is customary on every analyst desk, I need to get your predictions. So, Trouble, who will be the European Masters Spring Champion, and why, and in how many games?
I've been told I'm the hype queen for the underdog, so I'm gonna stick with my prediction from the start. Polska Górom, all 5 games, 3-2 for k1ck.
I don't think they're the underdogs anymore. They may have been earlier in the tournament. Ender, your prediction, please.
Look, I think these are going to be close games for sure, but I'm actually going to go 3-1 for the Polish representatives in k1ck. We've talked so much about the junglers and the bot lanes, and while they've got the flashy names, those are the close matchups. I think in the solo lanes is where k1ck have the clear advantages and where they're going to be able to break open these games.
Yeah, I definitely think so. You may have noticed we didn't focus too much on the top lane. Let's see how that one plays out throughout the day. We'll have a lot more coverage coming your way. It is time to decide the superior team and region as we leave it to xScoundrel and Foxdrop for the EU Masters Spring Final.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to dive into that matchup, this grand final that we've all been waiting for. If you were awake last night on Twitter, you will have seen the wave of the Puki style just all over the place. I was peer pressured into getting that change on my profile picture. It has been quite something to behold. But Foxy, look, this is a really entertaining finals, and I think the one thing that we can draw from it is that Poland and France, they are really bloody good at League of Legends.
They are exceptional at League of Legends, and their fans love them very much. I definitely think that is 2 conclusions we can pull away so far before the games have even begun. It's a really heartwarming story, honestly, just the way that social media has kind of rallied behind Puki style especially, and also on the other hand with LDLC and YellOwStaR, he's got a massive storied legacy by himself, and the fact that they're like kickstarting it a bit and kind of like reviving, adding an extra notch onto YellOwStaR there is, for EU Masters, I'm just like, yeah, it's so heartwarming. I'm so glad we've got to be a part of this.
I know, this is one of the most overwhelming movements. It's almost become a cult, realistically, from what I've seen from both sides, because it's not only Puki style that got the support of his Polish fans, as well as the majority of the esports teams and esports fans worldwide, it seems like, but everyone was going for a movement with YellOwStaR as a profile picture as well. So it's really heartwarming to just see the fans so engaged with their 2 teams that have made it to the European Masters Finals. And what an incredible story for the players on these rosters as well. Both Puki style and YellOwStaR, they are 10-year veterans of this game. It is just insane to now see these guys back at the top level of League of Legends. European Masters, this is no stiff competition, Foxdrop, as we're into Champion Select. And to continue to be able to play at this level and seed is a testament to the longevity that these 2 individual players have put out onto the field. It's incredible.
Yeah, I can't even... I've been playing League for about as long as these guys at an awful level, and I'm struggling. I don't know how they do it, keeping at the top level. Like, these guys just insane players, and that's why they're here in the finals. Obviously, they have 4 other teamates surrounding them each. Shouldn't just focus on Puki style and YellOwStaR. Obviously, it's the fun one to look at. But as we get into game, as we're looking at this draft as well, you're going to see different priorities and putting different pressure. Ender mentioned that he believes K1ck has the solo lane advantage, and LDL and like they're very scrappy, and LDLC are pretty good at the team fight. So I want to see how that's reflected in these first few bans.
So I think what we're seeing right now is obviously some attention going towards A, Hades with the Varus ban, and B, TynX, who's now not going to get his Graves. I'm wondering whether Lee Sin comes into play here. We saw in that little LFL MVP highlight reel that he had a 100% win rate on Lee Sin throughout the season. We know that Shlatan likes to default to that pick, but you mentioned that you think that the likes of Trundle and Gragas might end up being more important here.
Yeah, I think TynX is perfectly happy picking Trundle into Lee Sin. And it depends, like if this last ban is the Trundle, then I would not be surprised to even see a Lee Sin first pick, because as you mentioned, it's a really, really good deny. But I really would not be shocked if we just see like Trundle Lee Sin every single game this series, because I think both teams are happy with like the other one getting that, and then seeing how it evolves. But first pick, LeBlanc is open, and Vétheo putting some priority on him, saying, all right, 17-year-old whiz kid, now's your time. First game of the finals, we are giving you the first pick.
I want to cast your minds back to the Sunday tiebreaker games where we had to see LDLC essentially go through a gauntlet to qualify to the quarterfinals stage. There was a game where Vétheo absolutely smurfed it on LeBlanc. Like, he was the second jungler on that team into those side lanes, putting pressure. And I think it was, I can't remember who it was against, maybe against Fnatic or XL, one of the two.
I think it was
but
XL.
I
remember that.
It was XL.
Yeah.
He absolutely crushed it. So this is a gauntlet thrown down, and I love the way this is tied in because, there were questions about, is Matislaw going to be the difference maker? Matislaw with that Zoe, with that LeBlanc, is he going to be the difference maker for K1ck? Versus Vétheo has had some up and down performances. They are confident in Vétheo to take that LeBlanc straight up. It's responded with Shlatan getting his Lee Sin. They're going to lock in the Misfortune too, and I would not be surprised if we do indeed see the Trundle, like you said. That Trundle Lee Sin matchup is probably going to be fairly prominent in this best of 5 final.
Yeah, I want to see at this point now as well, there's two things that are standing out for me with K1ck's responses, is the Misfortune coming through from Puki Style. So Puki Style's played 12 games this tournament, and on 10 of those games he played someone called Varus or Aphelios. And there's only 2 games where he hasn't played one of those 2 champions, so he's already being put away from comfort here. And as well, what is their mid lane answer going to be for Matislaw? He's played a lot of Azir, that's pretty good into the LeBlanc, quite a safe pick, but there's also the Syndra open, and I do wonder whether you want to pick that more dynamic, explosive mid lane matchup and really kind of try and exploit that solo diff that we've kind of been hinting to a little bit so far of this series. Is it going to be more explosive, or are you going to go a bit more safe?
In terms of champions picked, Matislaw has played 4 unique champions this entire tournament. Zoe, Corki, LeBlanc, and Azir. He's not going to deviate. He's going straight into the Corki. I was about to say, Vétheo has shown us 8 unique champions this tournament. Vétheo has doubled the size of the pool that he showed available, whereas Matislaw, he goes back to what he feels he's comfortable on. He's had some excellent performances on Corki, and he is going to lock that in before this second rotation comes through. The Yuumi ban makes a lot of sense. With the Ezreal locked in, you know that combo can be pretty disgusting, so just getting rid of Yuumi so YellOwStaR can't take it.
Yeah, YellOwStar's been drawing quite a lot of bans actually from teams so far in this tournament, which is always a plus side. It gives you more wiggle room in the draft. His Bard was something that he picked up a lot during those tiebreakers, as you were mentioning, and then got banned away from him a fair amount in the quarterfinals, was picked away from him as well. Rogue or Mystiques decided to run that to kind of deny it from him. So I do wonder whether that's something that teams are keeping their eye on, just YellOwStaR in general, and that specifically that Bard pick. As we are seeing Renekton being banned away from Ibo, putting a little bit of pressure down on him to kind of limit what he can pick as that counter in the top lane.
Yeah, we haven't really talked too much about Ibo. I think the Maokai ban makes sense here. I think Bando has performed best when he's been on tank duty, and I don't mean that as an insult. I mean it in the sense that Bando's just been dependable when he's been on champions like that. So that's going to be sort of limiting it with Ornn banned, and with Maokai banned, now Bando's going to have to stretch his legs a little bit on the top side of the map. And Ibo has been a focal point for K1ck. That top side of the map, that has been K1ck's Shlatan, Ibo, and Matislaw. They are the difference makers for this team. And so getting a matchup that they feel comfortable in, with the Aatrox and Renekton ban as well, we're going to start to see some slightly different picks come out on that top side of the map here.
So I'm really curious to see what K1ck decide to do, because every single champion that Ibo has played so far in this tourney has been banned. except a Malphite. He played one game of Malphite. So everything else is taken. Like we might be seeing something fresh, something new here. I'd be a little bit surprised to see him locking Malphite in this game especially.
Sett is still open as well. I didn't realize Sett had made it this far through the draft, and that obviously can go to YellOwStaR, but it's not something that I've seen YellOwStaR play, whereas the Bard, we have seen YellOwStaR play. That's actually YellOwStar's most played support in this tournament, and that's going to be Sett for Bando on the top side. We'll see what Ibo chooses to respond with. The Mordekaiser, so something different for him, but it's something that I'm sure he plays very well, and those are our compositions, Foxy, for our first game of this final.
All right.
Oh, I'm really excited.
The Mordekaiser, I love these drafts. I love these drafts like straight up from top to bottom. I think this is a very LDLC draft, and this is a very kick draft. There are a few curveballs being thrown because of limitations and restrictions that we saw in those bans. But specifically, I do want to focus a little bit on this top matchup because Bando absolutely loved Sett in the LFL. He had like a 90% win rate on it or something, but he hasn't played it at all in EU Masters. And you're talking about him being on tank duty and being that kind of dependable guy. The thing is that Bando actually has the highest damage share on his team throughout the entirety of EU, which is not something our top laners can brag about. That's a surprising stat for, there's been some kind of maybe a bit critical of Bando at times on LDLC, but Sett is definitely a champion where you say to me, your top laner's got the highest damage share. Who was he playing? Well, maybe he was playing a 2020 champion. Maybe he was playing Sett. So I want to see whether he can keep that up, keep that going. And just see whether he can take the team on his back for this game one.
Well, speaking of the game, ladies and gentlemen, we are diving in to the Rift for LDLC versus k1ck, the first of this best-of-5 grand final in the European Masters, and already k1ck are up to some sneaky tricks on that bot side. LDLC are grouped up around it. This could be devastating. I'm hoping Shlatan checks with a Q. Because if he walks directly into LDLC here, they know. Okay, that's good. I was very, very scared, Foxy, that our first game was going to end up with a bit of a disaster for either side.
Yeah, LDLC had one of those nightmare games in the first game against Rogue in their semi-finals, where they kind of just did a really terrible level 1. It put them really far behind, and they weren't able to recover from that. So shoring up your level 1s, making sure there are no leaky holes going on there, and you can just play from scratch in this early, because I do think, especially with this jungle matchup, Trundle is a champion that can bully out Lee Sin, can fight Lee Sin, but he's gonna have to get some lane priority to enable him to do that. And I think, on the top side, maybe you can get that between Sett and Mord, but I'm a bit worried about LeBlanc into Corki to see whether that's gonna happen in that mid.
Do you know what I want to keep our eyes on, Foxy, at the start of this game? It has to be TynX and Shlatan. TynX has been the driving force for LDLC in the early games. A lot of the early game leads, and I think when people talk about LDLC being an early game team, it's because TynX is like the ultimate early game jungler. Like he said, we had that interview with him, I think it was after his semi-finals win, where he said, look, I know my matchups, I know what I'm capable of. If I just play with no fear, I can make those invades, I can take those engages, and I just trust my team to follow me up. And that's just like the prime example of what TynX can do in the jungle, and I think that's really where I'm keeping my eyes tuned to. Shlatan versus TynX in the first sort of 10-15 minutes of this game.
Yeah, and part of that just comes from the draft. Like, TynX's 2 most played champions are Trundle and Graves, and they are absolutely these kind of early game champions that want to put pressure on, not necessarily the pure ganking style champions like you see out of Raxxo and Elise. Obviously TynX can play, haven't seen too much in this EUM, but in general it's in his wheelhouse. Instead of going for that ganking style, it's more like just pressure and stuff, so you get those invades, you try and fight the enemy jungler, you try and create some space, you get the objectives, and LDLC, as far as their early games go, they are very, very good at securing objectives. They get most of the dragons, they get Herald more often than not, whereas k1ck as a team actually sacrifice a lot of those early objectives, so we might see a bit of a stylistic mismatch as we might get the first dive of the game.
Oh, Ibo pulls Bando back in. The flash has to come down, but first blood is there for TynX.
Oh.
And he'll escape. He'll escape with a sliver of HP here, Foxy. That was a successful dive. Couple flashes burnt, but they put the pressure on Ibo on the top side.
Yeah, that's the Sett pick coming in huge right there. Bando really showing how he can be a massive positive force for his team on LDLC, and just really being, yeah, TynX got that kill, but the fact that Bando got him in that position, got Ibo down under the tower, had that level advantage, really set up that whole play for his team, and good start for LDLC here.
Do you know what? I actually want to take a little moment to look at Bando as a player, because I feel like this entire European Masters has been a redemption arc for him. Because honestly, he didn't start off the group stages very well. I really don't think he had the best group stages performance. But every single time I've seen him since then, he's become more and more impactful, has played better, has I guess, I don't know how to phrase this other than inted less. He's genuinely gone from strength to strength in this top side of the map for LDLC, and I've been really impressed. I think he's had a lot of resolve to weather through some of these worst performances to come out on top in those semi-finals and now in those finals, playing what could be some of the best League of Legends we've seen him play this tournament.
I fully agree with you. I think Bando is, at this point, he's being underrated, but he's just improved as the tournament's gone on. You know, he was the brunt of some memes, deservedly so, but at this point, you know, I really think he's a huge force. And the thing is, on the other side, Aibo, he's no easy customer. Like, Aibo is one of the best top laners that we have in EU Masters, that we've seen, like, historically in EU. He's always been in conversations. I remember 2 years ago when we were doing 2018 EU Masters in spring, there were 3 top laners that we were talking about, like the next tops. That was Finn, Arome, and Aibo. And both Finn and Arome are in the LEC right now. Aibo quite been able to jump, but still, you know, he's been so dominant at times in this EU Masters. You can really see why there's been so much respect being put on his name.
Yeah, and I think you can see why they decided to put a bit of pressure on him on that top side of the map as well. I love what TynX has done. Oh, sorry, Bando had done here as well. Just froze that lane. TynX hovered top side, and obviously just it really zoned Aibo away. He's now 13 CS down. There's a lot of pressure now just naturally being put onto Aibo on that top side of the map, and Bando's seemingly getting control. TynX with YellOwStaR and Vétheo, they're going to secure this dragon. Now, Shlatan and Raxxo are hanging in the sidelines, but I just don't think they're in a good enough position to be able to contest this, and it should allow TynX to pick up the first dragon of the game. And Foxy, you will be happy, because the Soul, it's definitely not going to be Cloud.
It's definitely not going to be Cloud, so we're going to get Mountain or Ocean here. Obviously, Ocean is just an insanely powerful soul that's basically a win condition for any team comp. Mountain's a little bit more situational, but still obviously beneficial to pick up. LDLC continuing their tradition of getting really, really early dragons. They get something like, on average, 1.5 dragons every 15 minutes, whereas K1ck don't even get 1. So it's no surprise when you're picking Trundle in most of your games, and this game is no different.
What K1ck do though, and I know we have talked about their lack of focus on early game objectives, they do often get a lot of plates and a lot of towers, and I think we've seen them make that active decision to sacrifice things like first Rift Herald and first Dragon to try and find some kind of pressure in lane to look for plates, to get that freestanding gold before 14 minutes. It's something that K1ck do put a lot of pressure on, as Matislaw now gets double chained up here, forced the flash out from TynX, and Matislaw will back off here. That's a flash now down, and the TynX has been pretty active on the map so far.
He has, you know, he is a Corki, now he's level 6 as well, Matislaw, so he can farm from range. Shouldn't be too vulnerable in that mid lane, but whenever you're playing versus LeBlanc, it's always a good setup, good potential for you to make some plays, because you can not only gap close aggressively, but you can also throw down 2 chains, double chains, which is something that, you know, if you get caught by and you don't have your flash, you're going to be in a bit of a pickle. So we'll see if TynX keeps his eyes peeled onto that mid lane, tries to punish Matislaw and really get Vétheo accelerated in this early game.
But, I mean, I think we're coming to, what 7 or 8 minutes when that first Rift Herald is going to spawn, and no team has opened up a major advantage as of yet. We're still looking at a moderately even game with a very slim gold lead for LDLC, probably coming off the back of that first blood. Everything else is pretty even Stevens at this stage, and that first Rift Herald is obviously going to be one of those areas where a contest could happen. Now, what we usually see from K1ck is they don't bother going for that. They end up contesting the second Rift Herald when they feel that they spike a little bit better, but that will be something that I assume LDLC will want to put pressure on, because it is an objective that, as you quite correctly mentioned, LDLC do like to take and do like to utilize from the very get-go.
Yeah, and you know, it's always just a benefit to take it, you know, regardless of what, you know, the way that we can phrase it and the way that we can talk about the strategical uses of letting it go and then taking one up later. It's like, if you get it, that's good, you know, it's a plus. It's just straight up, it's a plus. And you know, K1ck, they're kind of waiting a little bit here. I think their items, their champions spike on kind of like later items, especially that Corki. LeBlanc is 1 item, Corki is more like 2, maybe even 3. We're gonna get a fight in the top lane. Aibo is flashing off Bando.
He's flashing after Bando, mate. He wants it as the showstopper comes through. Aibo looking for the kill, but he can't find it. That was aggressive.
Yeah, so, in the end there, that's just 1 flash loss for K1ck, even though Aibo was the beneficiary of that play. Now they K1ck using this top advantage here to take away this Rift Herald. They are the first win of the game, so that's good, you know. Being able to deny that from LDLC and that early power of TynX and Trundle.
Actually looked like they got the rotate off a little bit quicker than an LDLC did, and then obviously maybe Ibo made that aggressive play to try and get Bando out of the fight to make sure that he couldn't even look to respond to that Rift Herald take. So maybe the flash was all calculated to allow K1ck to set up for that first objective, which again we haven't usually seen them put a huge amount of priority on, but this time they get it, which is nice because it's just free plates at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of think that Ibo didn't necessarily need to flash to still achieve what, you know, pushing Bando out lane, but it's cool, it's whatever. Like, he's going out lane, they get their herald. All good there. And you see now Matislaw's having a bit more confidence in this mid lane with that package up. And we'll see whether this lack of flash means that he plays a bit more respectful here. Because even just respecting a gank can mean that you give up lane pyro because you don't want to overextend, you're just playing really, really safe. And sure, you might not die, you'll still be able to farm, and that's great. But it might mean that LeBlanc gets more like freedom to move around the map, which obviously is going to be really, really beneficial for us.
I'm going to be looking towards that 15-minute mark, Foxy, and I know it's a completely arbitrary value, right? But I'm looking towards that 15-minute mark because both of these teams throughout the entire course of the tournament have about 1,500 to 1,800 gold lead at 15 minutes. Both of these teams have that on average in their games. So I'm wondering whether, if either team opens up a significant gold lead before that point in the game, is that going to be indicative of the way the game is going to play out? You know, they generally get an early gold lead and then convert on it to a win. Is that going to be an actual factor that we can track over the course of this series to who's going to have the better outcome in these individual games? I'm kind of interested in seeing that and seeing if it holds true throughout this series, because it is something that both of these teams are very good at doing, and it really does come from that early pressure generated from the jungle.
Yeah, definitely. Both these teams kind of excel in those scenarios, and I think a part of it comes down to the draft. They do have more slow body champions. LDLC, I'd say absolutely yes. But either way, right now we are going to get a contest for the second dragon. Ibo's walking down, and Bando's TPing in.
Bando is TPing in. A lot of work is already done by K1ck to the dragon here. This should allow TynX to pick it up as the Misfortune ultimate comes through. Great stun from YellOwStaR. There's the showstopper right onto the top of K1ck. And LDLC, they look good in this fight. That first dragon will go down. LDLC chasing K1ck out as Vétheo jumps in. And TynX should be trying to pick off the stragglers on the back here. K1ck did not calculate the response. And LDLC will take a great fight to begin.
I think LDLC, you know, at this point in the game, they're just a little bit stronger than K1ck, and K1ck were not expecting all that damage coming out of them. And that's the power of Trundle as well. Like, when you're playing as low mobility carriers like the Misfortune, you have no gap closer, you just strut your stuff around the map and you have that move speed. But when there's a Trundle bashing down on you, how do you get away from that? The answer is you can't. And he falls down. He's going to be greeted by the Grim and a grey screen. His first death of the game, and now 2 dragons over to LDLC with, crucially, this Ocean Soul coming up as this game goes on. If you wanted to see a snowball, if you're looking for that kind of indicative early game transitioning, well, having the threat of Ocean Soul is definitely going to lean towards that X-Scandal.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to. I don't know if we can ever get that fight again, because I think that YellOwStaR stun was actually insane in the middle of that fight. I think it just caught 2 really high priority targets. I believe it was Puki style and someone else, but damn, that was a great fight. I also just think that, you know, with Vétheo being where he is, with Hades having the Sheen, it was a good fight for them. They had a couple of mini item spikes to work with. Shlatan's actually going to be forced to dive out here again. Another nice ultimate from YellOwStaR. Yeah. This should allow the reset as Shlatan goes down. And LDLC starting to turn the knife. K1ck starting to bleed out a little bit here. They're losing a lot of gold early on right now. They're going to need to try and just shore things up as we head towards that mid-game 15-minute mark.
A lot of this is just YellOwStaR, man. Like, this is not really someone that we massively hype up when it comes to LDLC. We talk a lot about TynX, we talk a lot about the solo laners, their bot lanes being dependable, and sure, we mention YellOwStar's name because of the weight that this guy's name carries, but it's not just his name that's carrying weight right now. He's carrying his whole team. Like, he's doing ridiculously well, and it's on this bar champion that I mentioned in draft is something that teams have been taking away from him, whether it's in bans or whether they're just picking it to deny it from him. He's got it again this game, and he's doing absolute work right now.
Yeah, I think actually I want to reflect back on that interview that we had with the fake that Trevor did earlier on. He talked about the fact that I think the difference makers are going to be YellOwStaR and TynX versus Matislaw and Shlatan. And right now, TynX has got 100% kill participation. Huge impact on the map. YellOwStaR has got 75%, and we've just seen how impactful that he's been in 2 skirmishes in a row. And I think that's definitely living true right now. YellOwStaR, the 10-year veteran that's got numerous European titles to his name, world appearances, and he's now back at an insanely high level of play with 10 years pedigree behind him as well. And he's still playing like some of the best, even younger supports, out there in the European scene right now. It's a really, really lovely story. And again, he's performing when it counts. Him and TynX already off to a good start in this series.
And the thing with YellOwStaR is we're judging him based off the plays that we can see, but there's so much to do with League of Legends and being like a teammate that you just don't get to see as a part of the audience. Things like shot calling, behind the scenes stuff. These are all things that someone like YellOwStaR must bring in absolute spades, and we're hyping him, saying, yeah, this guy's really great, and we're not even taking into consideration all of that other stuff that he must be bringing to LDLC. And I mean, there's a reason why this team's in the final.
Yeah, I mean, he used to be their coach, right? So making that transition from coach to player, but actually being good, that's insane. True. That you bring the brain as well as the brawn to the actual game, and that's a big thing for LDLC. You can see Matislaw here on the top, going to be packaging away, just trying to make sure he doesn't put himself in a precarious spot. As we head to that 15-minute mark, it is a good gold lead. 2,500 or so open for LDLC. This is what I would like to call a significant early game lead that they've built up, and they're going to secure that second Rift Herald. The first, I didn't catch what the first was actually used by K1ck. I don't know what they actually got from it.
It was just place in mid.
Okay.
Nothing crazy, but as the game's going on here, we might actually be able to see the first tower being taken down with this Herald. There's something I want to kind of harp on LDLC a little bit about. I might not do it right now because there might be something happening in this top side. They're taking that Herald, they're looking for that potential first blood tower, but they're a little bit chunked out here. I think TynX might just waddle away from this one. So this, I'm just, LDLC peeps, please check more bushes for pink wards. I saw this so many times in the semi-finals. The new bush that's being put in by the blue buff, people they're not checking it for pinks, and they're constantly running over pinks. There's one of the top left of the map for LDLC right now, which has been there for so long. It's spotted out at least 2 plays right now as well from LDLC. Just put your nose in the bush and just get rid of the ward. Oh, yo, Vétheo, mate, we're synced. He's doing it. He's getting rid of the ward as LDLC are going to take the dragon.
Oh, there we go, Foxy. Just that neural link working out for you, mate. Just giving the on-the-fly advice. They're going to pick up this mid-lane tier 1 with that Rift Herald, like you said. That is going to secure the first tower of the game over for LDLC, and they will get the 3rd dragon. Now, this is important because at 16 minutes, they have the 3rd dragon. By 20 minutes, Ocean Soul, as a significant win condition, is on the table. If LDLC can maintain pressure, maintain advantage in terms of gold and item spikes, we get to the Ocean Soul fight. That could be the nail in the coffin for this first game of the best of 5. That is huge for LDLC after on the cards so early this game.
Yeah, I always think that, 4th dragon gives you the soul, but 3rd dragon is pretty much just as important because the amount of pressure that it puts on the enemy team to then force themselves to contest the dragon soul. If you're on a 5-minute timer right now, and if you're looking down the lineup from K1ck and you're looking at the items, you're thinking, okay, when does K1ck come online? It's like Corki is the biggest one where he's not got his mirror mana, he's not got his Triforce, he needs those things. Puki hasn't finished his first item, though should be getting that relatively soon. But either way, it's like you are out-itemized right now. I think your champions aren't as strong either, but you do have a pretty decent team fight if you can get a good bullet time. So that's something that K1ck are going to have to look for when they try and contest this next dragon play, but they also have to be careful of not getting picked off. LDLC is great at picking people, and we're going to see a little bit here.
Yeah, Shlatan actually forced to kick Vétheo away here. The 2-level advantage, as well as the fact that YellOwStaR was in the wings, was too scary for him. Bando now looking for the 1v1 versus Aibo, but Aibo with that Liandry's has suddenly become a bit of a monster to deal with. Showstopper to try and escape here, but Bando, I think he could be going down. Matislaw heads in, he'll pick up the kill, and Bando will give away the first death of the game for LDLC.
That's something that really sucks actually about being in a death realm. It's like, it's a 1v1, you're already struggling with it, and you come out and someone's TP'd on top of you, and you can't even see it. You can't even see that TP coming in. There's a 0 counterplay to that right there, and Bando is going to fall down. He still gets TP up, and he'll be able to get back onto the map pretty quickly. But still, K1ck getting their first kill of the game, that's important. You want to try and catch back up and be able to contest ASAP for this next one.
Yeah, well, that's the timer. You see the little timer, everybody, in the top left-hand screen? 2 minutes 45 seconds. That is when it's going to go down in this game, because that is a dragon that LDLC will want to be set up for, and that's a dragon that K1ck are going to need to contest. So we're looking at some crucial things to get there. The Triforce Muramana spike for Corki is huge. That'll be big for Matislaw. It might allow him to unlock his carry potential in this game. We have got a first item finished for Puki style. The Essence Reservoir is there, and we're working towards a couple more from the Mordekaiser on the top side. And then on the flip side, obviously, if we can get the 2-item spike for Hades, he's going to be in a great position for this next fight as well. But really, 2 minutes. We've got a build-up of 2 minutes until this game really starts to come online for either squad. If K1ck can defend that dragon and start to take control, especially with Matislaw being in a strong position, I genuinely think we could see K1ck find their way back in. If LDLC secure a fight and close out that dragon, Foxy, I think it might look grim in this first game for our Polish representatives.
Oh, most definitely. That is not how you want to start out your series. Playing up against a 20-minute Ocean Soul, that would be, you're definitely playing on hard mode right there. You're talking about the 2-item power spikes for Ez and Corki being very similar. Ez has just finished his Triforce as you were talking, and then finished his Muramana as well. And Matislaw's still waiting for that one. I can't quite see how close he is on that Muramana. He's obviously 1 item away on the Triforce, trying to get that stinger through. Still got like a minute or so to play with. Like, it may seem like we're just going like a little bit too ham on these, talking about items. Like, Foxy mate, what are you doing? Shut up. There's a whole game being played. It's not just about the items. These champions are so dependent on items. Like, these specific item breakpoints are massive for champions like Corki and like Ez. It really is worth keeping your eye on them. Holy moly, LDLC, this is a 20-minute Baron.
They're working with that Ezreal spike, I guess. They're trying to force them in before Matislaw has that. I'm maybe looking to force K1ck's hand straight up. Now, they do get spied out. They can't sneak it, and LDLC will back off because of it. But it has opened up a little bit of food for thought for K1ck. They have to be a bit careful on the map, and Puki gets caught out by YellOwStaR again. The man bringing that ultimate through to start the fight up. Here comes Matislaw, immediately exhaust. But look at K1ck. They have the health bars to work with. Matislaw gets focused out. TynX jumps in, and he gets shut down there by Braum coming through from K1ck. And LDLC are forced back. 25 seconds left until the dragon, and they made a huge error because they are now going to lose that soul.
Yeah, that was a big blunder for LDLC when you had the free Dragon Soul. That's cheeky, but not quite cheeky enough for Vétheo, mate. You're going to go down as well. 3 kills for free, essentially, here. 3 for 0, and crucially, extremely crucially, you are now putting even more timer on the game, which, at this point, denying that 20-minute soul, I think you're very happy if you're K1ck. K1ck have been very good at playing these team fights. LDLC very good at getting these early game advantages, and we've seen both of them at their premiere here in this game as this fight starts out with a good catch from YellOwStaR.
I think I just want to look through, especially the way that Puki played that initial engage. He could have very easily flashed out of the YellOwStaR ultimate, right, Foxy? But he didn't. Yeah. He chose to save it, and he drew LDLC in behind the breakable to open up with him. I think that was quite smart from Puki.
I think the problem as well for LDLC is like you've got really good catch potential with champions like Bard, LeBlanc, and Trundle. But the problem is, like, if you're using that as a team fight engage, where's your follow-up engage? Like, who's the person that wants to then like dogpile onto the enemy team when you've got that stasis coming through from Bard's ulti? Like, I don't really think that like TynX or Sett necessarily can do that compared to some other like really kind of like frontline champions that will happily just jump in. And I think LDLC in those group top engages are going to struggle a little bit to follow up on YellOwStar's engages.
Well, I like to talk about ease of execution sometimes. Like when you talk about champs, Ivo has to be a bit careful here. He drags in YellOwStaR and TynX, and the immediate response is there from K1ck right now as Matislaw jumps in onto YellOwStaR. The ultimate comes through, trying to buy some time as Shlatan finds the kick. TynX is gonna go down as the exhaust lands on for Vétheo. And K1ck are chasing down the remainder of LDLC. They have brought this game back from what was a tough early game start, and they are suddenly feeling like the team in the driving seat.
I said there was no counterplay to when TynX was sitting on top of Puki and just bashing him down. Where's the counterplay to the Mord ultimate? If you're Trundle, you have one gear. That's like right click and smork. That's essentially what Trundle does as a champion. And if you can't do that, like up against Mordekaiser, and you can't effectively run away either because you're in the Death Realm, well, that's what happens. Mordekaiser will just beat you down. Ivo had a bit of a shaky early lane phase. He did fall down a bit in CS. He was dove at level 2. But I hyped him up. I said he was one of the premier top lanes that we've got in in Europe, especially out the LEC. And he's kind of proven it. Like, he's come back really well in this game, and he is really popping off on more in these fights.
Well, we're back to even playing field in terms of gold, by the way, Foxy. With another 2 minutes on the clock, LDLC looking to want to set up for that Dragon Soul once more. Shlatan, we'll have to be careful here as Hades jumps in to try and catch him out. Like, any kind of pick would be huge for LDLC. And I want to follow up on that comment that you were talking about when it comes to the way that these teamfights should play out for LDLC. You know, pure front to back, ease of execution. I think K1ck win that game every single time. Like, they just have the easier comp to work with when it comes to playing out teamfights in a variety of situations. Ibo, though, that is a big drag back in, but he is so tanky with a huge amount of shield right now. Can you even touch this man as the Death Realm goes through onto TynX, like you said, and immediately then into the Misfortune Ultimate coming out from Puki style. It is defensive once more from LDLC, and again, K1ck able to respond so nicely to these engages.
LDLC had a bit of a kickstart there on the rotation. It was looking like they were going to maybe even take that tower, but the way the Mordekaiser plays, it's really, really hard to actually like move him, get him away from something, push him out, unless you can genuinely bring him down, which takes a lot of effort. You know, he's so good at buying time, he's so good at wave clear, and you can see it right there. Like, the K1ck just don't care. You know, Ibo doesn't care. He's in 1v4, just presses R, he's fine. They defend the tower, and it just ruins everything that LDLC had put up there.
Let's take a brief view of Matislaw against Vétheo now, because they prioritized the LeBlanc in draft for Vétheo. They took that away as their first pick on blue side. Matislaw to one of the 4 picks that he's played throughout this entire tournament. He's 1-0-2 with a CS advantage, and he has had huge side lane impact on this Corki. I really feel like Matislaw is just doing his job perfectly right now for K1ck. And you know, you remember the fake one we talked about, the difference makers for LDLC? Well, the fake one turned around and said, well, Matislaw is one of the difference makers for K1ck. And whilst it may not look he's been flashy, he hasn't made any huge solo kill performances. He has
he's playing
just
Corki,
been,
mate.
Yeah, no, he's playing Corki. He has just been good though, right? He's just been good this game.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree with you, and Ender said it on the AD as well before the game. He feels like K1ck has a big solo advantage, and I very much agree with that as well. Matislaw has been sublime in the semi-finals. He's off to a good start in this game as well. And Vétheo is someone, I say it a lot, I've always wanted him to step up on LDLC. In the quarterfinals, he did really, really well. I feel like in the semis, he was a little bit shaky. And now that we're in the finals, I want to see whether he can, you know, he's got the power pick, you know, he's got a lot of agency on this pick. They first picked it for him. The draft is kind of centered around him in that way. We'll see if he can do things as the game goes on.
Well, it is that Ocean Soul that we're gearing up for. You can see LDLC are postured in the river for it. They need to find a good start to this fight, though. They can't just... I don't think they can just brawl into a straight-up 5v5, because I genuinely think that they lose out when it comes to those engages. I just don't think they have the ease of execution of this teamfight to make it work. But K1ck, they're aggressive. They're looking for their own positioning, and they've managed to force LDLC out of the river here. Yeah,
and there is package on Matislaw. So yeah, he's still got the package up, so that's definitely going to be something. There it is.
And that's the ultimate. Oh, he steals it! TynX, the absolute madman, gets the soul for the LC. Now the fight might go in favour of K1ck, as they've already opened up the kills in their favour. But LDLC, they got what they came for. They have the soul, and they will exit victorious.
Yeah, you take that. You take that any day of the week. Losing 2 people, but securing an Ocean Soul, no problemo. LDLC will be very happy with that one. And again, the 3rd dragon, you know, it's really, really important because it puts so much pressure on the team to just play flawlessly. You have to not only secure every single other dragon by either making picks, making plays, but also you can't have it stolen away like this, and it's just so easy. Like, this is, it's a 1 level difference. That's 50 damage on your smite. It really isn't that much to write home. It's not a huge diff in that smite damage, and you know that TynX can just flash over, he takes it, easy peasy lemon squeezy. K1ck needs to do a much better job of zoning him out of the pit. Too late now though, you've got that Ocean Soul. LDLC, very chuffed with that one.
And the usual response for a team would be to go, alright, cool, alright, we lost Dragon, but we have the man advantage, we're going to go straight over to Baron, right? That would be the usual response. But with Hades still left alive, and I believe YellOwStaR was up too, I guess they just feared the fact that they were just going to get poked out of Baron pit. There was no way they could do it against Hades with this current item spike set that he's got. So they couldn't even convert onto the Baron there for K1ck. That was disappointing. But look, I don't want to like oversell this. K1ck have still got a gold advantage. It's a slim one, but they still have a gold advantage.
Yeah, how much gold is all that healing worth now for LDLC? And also the question you have to ask is like, what do you do against this healing? Because there are champions that there's like some healing on the side of LDLC, but not really enough to warrant anti-heal, but now that you've got this Ocean Soul as well, you can see PukiStar, what does he do first thing? Execution's calling. Throw that down. You're going to cut that, try and counter that Ocean Soul as best you can.
You can see now they have taken that tier 1 in the mid lane finally. That's going to open up a bit more of the map for K1ck. They were struggling to play around that previously. Now they have that mid lane tier 1 open. They might be able to get a bit more aggressive vision control, especially in that blue side jungle when that Baron is going to be so important over the next sort of 8 to 10 minutes of this game. Who are you favouring, Foxy? I mean, at this point in time, I know Ocean Soul is there for LDLC. It's a big win condition. Can they convert that into the actual win here in this first game of the series?
So I think that the actual team fights definitely favour K1ck at this point. You know, you've got the wombo combo, you've got the AoE, you've also got Ibo who can like take away an MVP from LDLC until they start paying the sash tax, and that all works in your favour in group type engages. But you know, at this point, you have so much poke damage on LDLC, or just like kind of poke with Hades, and also just LeBlanc's ability to just do LeBlanc things, right? Jump into you, chunk you down, jump back out, no problemo. As you start getting levels with more items as well, cooldown reduction means you can just use your ultimate in pretty much every single trade too. And I'm just thinking, I honestly, I don't even know how to call it, because it totally depends on how these fights go down, and it really depends, like, what kind of fights are LDLC going to look to engage? Do they look for the big 5v5s? Because I think, you know, they could definitely muck up there, and that could be a window for K1ck to get back in the game.
I mean, K1ck are definitely still in a good spot in this game. Yesterday they lost the Ocean Soul, but still have the 3-item Corki now. They've got 2.5 items on the Misfortune as well. The Baron is getting started up, and K1ck are aware of this going down right now. Shlatan will be able to seek it out with that Sonic Wave, just keeping tabs on the vision. But I mean, LDLC aren't letting up. They want this fight. They want K1ck to come to them on this Baron.
Man, we're not going to have another coin flip objective, are we? I think it might happen.
Oh, Bando! He's over the wall. He's going straight in, and they're going to get the Baron surely here. The Shlatan jumps over. They will not secure it. It goes over to Vétheo, and suddenly LDLC are working with it, but no one on Puki style. The ultimate is big, and once again, K1ck take the 5v5. They lose the objective, but they get the kill advantage.
Alright, YellOwStaR, mate, as a jungle player, you are now on my Christmas card list. He used his ultimate on Shlatan as the Baron was on like 1.5k health. It was beautiful. That's exactly what you want to deny that 50-50. And, oh man, coin flip Barons is just the worst, especially in a game like this. Especially with the stakes being what they are, the first game in your best of 5 at the European Masters. There's the ultimate that goes down onto Shlatan, but there's just not quite enough damage to really kind of nuke down the Baron in time. And look, Vétheo gets this on like 60 health. Oh god, it's so ridiculously close.
I mean, it was a great move, but it didn't actually have the intended effect, right? Shlatan still got into the pit within smite range. It was somehow Vétheo clutches this one out for his team. And LDLC, you would still call them the victors. They get the Baron, and it's only a 1-kill disadvantage in the fight, but now they have to utilize it. Foxy, can they use this Baron? I mean, let me rephrase that question. How are they going to use this Baron? Like, is it a straight-up push-down team, or is it that we utilize our strong solo, you know, like LeBlanc with the Blade of the Ruined King Sett and go into a split-push scenario?
Yeah, I would think that the comp of LDLC would want a split-push with Sett with LeBlanc. Oh, we're going to get engaged, though.
Yeah, YellOwStaR looks for a big stun, only can find it onto Ibo, who gets taken very low immediately as well. He's now in the death realm, but he hasn't actually found the kill, and you can see on the front line, that is Bando buying some time. Showstopper will not be good enough, but they'll trade 1-for-1 in the top lane that's going down. LDLC, though, they seemingly come out on top here as Vétheo gets taken so low. Hades now, 1v4 on the backline. Can the man convert it? The Mystic shot is good. He'll take down the jungler, and LDLC finally find the edge. And with Elder Dragon in 10 seconds, you can't help but feel that this is all LDLC need to close this one out.
Yeah, this is... Man, that Ocean Soul, I wasn't sure how it would play into this game, because at the end of the day, you still had a really, really strong team fight on the side of K1ck, but very, very importantly, Ibo taking TynX away for the millionth time this game, going for that 1v1, but it turns out the smart gameplay is pretty effective for Trundle when you've got that Spirit Visage and you've got that Ocean healing. Not enough for Ibo to bring him down, and when he survives, it's really easy to deal with Mordekaiser if Mord can't 1v1 someone in the Death Realm. And on top of that, you know, you just get that, you get that free kill, you get that play going down, you get the extra play on the backside with Hades, and now that is Elder and a very, very hungry French team here pushing down the bot side.
They have the Elder Dragon to work with right now as well. This is going to be very difficult for K1ck to find the edge in these fights. As YellOwStaR jumps through the magical journey, K kind of whiffs the ult, but Shlatan starts to get wailed on by Hades. Immediately, though, Matislaw is chunking back, and that's a huge amount of damage that this mid laner is putting out on that Corki right now.
Yeah, Corki, once you reach those item spikes, oh my goodness, you are so powerful. Even this poke from his rockets here is just, it's so much to deal with. And it seems like Vétheo is just perma tanking these as well. Like, he definitely doesn't want to be the one who's tanking it. It just happens to be that way. You know, Vétheo's not even sitting on that 3 items yet, and Matislaw is building towards his 4th one. There's a definite difference in strength in the mid lane here between these two teams. The thing is, though, LDLC, they've just got all that objective advantage. You know, you've got the dragons now, you've got the Elder Dragon as well. It's, you know, it's just sometimes having like strong champions isn't enough when you're also going up against everything else.
I do want to just note that we're at 35 minutes into the game, and the gold is still only about 2,000, 1,500 between the two teams. You know, irrespective of what's happened in terms of objective, it's testament to how closely matched LDLC and K1ck are in this grand finals of the European Masters. There's no, like, snowballing gold lead gone in one favor. It's not a 20-minute stomp. This is a real hard slog when it's coming down to pure execution in these team fights.
Speaking of execution in team fights, TynX has recognized that Mordekaiser has his number. He's building a wit's end for him for the pure 1v1 to go for that. I respect that a lot. I think honestly that's actually a really smart buy.
Yeah, it's an engage coming through from YellOwStaR. Matislaw gets forced back out by Vétheo, but immediately the showstopper's there onto the backline. Bando buying time. The shutdown is on to Puki style. He is down, and suddenly LDLC charge forward. Ibo, the next target, is the double kill. Finally getting some kills on the board for Vétheo, and this should be it. I mean, I'm sure LDLC can finish off this. They have such a big man advantage with just a ridiculous health advantage with the Ocean Soul as well.
Yes, there's a 3-player deficit here. And the only thing that might keep kicking this game is Matislaw's ability to wave clear at long range. But if he keeps getting poked out like this, they're going to lose Raxxo as well. And, you know, licking his wounds in the fountain, I don't think it's enough, Scoundrel.
LDLC, they will take the first shot in this best-of-5 final. It will be their first game. They are 1-0 up, and K1ck need to respond.
They absolutely need to respond. I think this was one of those games where it just looked very like the LDLC that we've seen for the past few weeks. You know, like TynX does his stuff early game, he puts loads of pressure, and his team kind of just takes objectives and they kind of snowball off that. And I don't think K1ck had a great answer for it. However, I do want to see whether that's like a question that they try and answer in the draft, or whether it was like an execution thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you reflect on that, you look at the solo lane performances from K1ck, and you're like, wow, they had a good game. Like, you look at Matislaw's score, you look at Ibo, and you're thinking, wow, that was good for K1ck. But as I said, it was a very close affair when it came down to pure execution. And whilst it might not be that gaining phase for Vétheo, he smurfed that last fight. He found 2 really big picks and put damage onto Matislaw before the fight even began. So when it came down to execution, Vétheo was there, making the moves, getting the edge for LDLC, and they actually proved me wrong. At the end there, yes, they had Elder Dragon and Ocean Soul, but they did win a straight-up 5v5. You know, that was a 5v5 under tower for K1ck, and LDLC won it. So they did prove me wrong in that respect. Look, I need to just boil this one down. My analysis probably isn't going to be as golden as that of our desk, so we are going to jump to a quick break, and when we're back, Quickshot will be able to run through that game with Ender in trouble.
5, 6, 7, 8, and back. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and back. 8 and back, 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 8 and back. And everybody goes back.
comprenez maintenant pourquoi j'ai créé la Magic? En un clip, vous devenez Magic.
La monture avec ses 2 clips pour 149 €.
C'est Magic.
Dispositif médical.
Super Jumping入り
This is my creed. The boots that make me faster. The items that make me stronger. The potions that I drink. I get the best to be more powerful, so my champion rises to the top. But all this leveling up means nothing if I don't level up myself. It's the healthy potions I drink in real life that make me stronger. Because you can only rule the game when you realize you are your most important champion. To play like a pro, eat like a pro.
And welcome back to the EU Masters Spring Final. LDLC come out the gate swinging, kind of trip a little bit, but then end up picking up the win anyway. I'm joined by Ender and Trouble once again. Let's talk a little bit about how LDLC started their first win. We had a lot of hype, a lot of focus on TynX, that man in the jungle, and Ender, he came out the gate swinging.
He looked for that very early dive up towards the top side of the map, which I thought was a really great decision from him, because sort of looking at the other side and what Shlatan was going to be able to do on the Lee Sin, the only lane where I felt like he was actually going to be able to gank was the top side. So TynX sort of shut that down by going for the early dive, then splitting up the map, and using the vision that he placed inside the enemy jungle to start sneaking away some objectives, which we know TynX loves to do in the early game.
Also, I like the hit on the top side because we know how strong Aibo can be once he snowballs his advantage, not necessarily through kills, but also through CS, through tire platings, and so on. So shutting Aibo down, we saw that in the rest of the game, he tried to have the impact, but falling behind early, it really showed on the fact that he couldn't snowball these fights for k1ck.
No, definitely not. The first replay we're going to take a look at, Dragon Fight at around 11 minutes. And after some of these fights and kills and the lead that LDLC picked up, I was like, okay, easy win for LDLC. It's in the bag, Ender.
Well, honestly, this was just so strange to me because k1ck were trying to force this fight, and they didn't really need to. They weren't really going to be able to get in towards the pit, and based off the items that were coming through, like, LDLC were going to be favored when you figure, hey, Corki won't really be able to have, you know, the Trinity Force plus the Man Immune finished off for quite some time, matching up against the other side. You're not going to have the damage. You know, Braum at this point in the fight's not going to be as valuable as a Bard either, so I felt like it was very strange for them to try and force it, and it was at that point where I was like, oh, this should just be an easy win now for LDLC. They got the second Drake of the game. Corki, they won't be able to, you know, contest them on the third Drake, so that means there won't be any fight up to get to that Drake soul, and it still should be LDLC in a very good position to come away with that one. But of course, we know how the game kept going on, and it wasn't just over off of that.
And talk to me a little bit about this next replay we've got. k1ck ended up picking up a victory in the mid lane. It looked to me like LDLC overreached, and Puki Styles MF, he managed to get a decent bullet time. This was the first kind of cog that stepped forward for k1ck that I thought, oh, they can bring this game back.
So LDLC, of course, try to collapse on through here, and they nail Puki style here with the ultimate, but he's able to flash away. Then they commit, but watch the flank coming in from Matislaw, coming around, forcing a couple members to flash out of the fight. That immediately splits the team right down the middle. So LDLC have two members sort of isolated up towards the top. They're two tank frontliners, and those guys just can't get away from the rest of it either right there.
Honestly, I like this play coming from LDLC. That was the game-winning moment from k1ck. It was Raxxo's Bard that gets a very crucial ultimate on XD Smiley's Misfortune and allowed them the victory over Gamers Origin in the quarterfinals. So catching that Misfortune out, being so immobile on that ADC, it's always worth it to try and get these ultimates in with the Bard.
Yeah, absolutely the case. Now, Trouble, talk to me about the Ocean Soul fight. This one, it looked as though k1ck was setting it up. It looked like they were going to get it, but at the end of the day, TynX jumps over the pit.
Oh no, why me? TynX destroyed the dreams of k1ck right there. Ocean Soul is one of the most impactful souls, and because they had two tanks on the side of LDLC as well, it was going to be a nightmare later on trying to kill Vétheo and trying to kill the Sett. And I think we had a conversation with Ender, and he was like, now don't worry about them, it's the Ezreal that's tanking. Well, now with the Ocean Soul, he was tanking even more.
Yeah, like, I don't actually care about any of the tanks in this comp. Realistically, like, when you see what k1ck have, they have no hard engage. They have no way to get onto that Ezreal. So as soon as he's got double lifesteal items and Ocean Soul on top, he will just never die, and it's basically Ezreal's game to go ahead and go out there and win at that point.
So, Ender, let's look forward now. LDLC, they ended up picking up a Baron, they ended up winning the game, but they had a very strong lead, and it felt to me like they took their foot off the gas. Now, if I look at the other direction, k1ck managed to find themselves some team fights and some opportunities to get back into the game. So, I think there's learnings for both teams. What would you like to see happen in Game 2?
Honestly, I feel like there's way more for k1ck to learn here than LDLC. LDLC had the one bad team fight, but if that didn't go wrong for them, and, you know, they sort of forced before the soul actually ended up spawning, they were going to get that soul, and they were going to be able to close this game out 5 minutes faster. So I don't really feel too bad about what LDLC put forward there, but as for k1ck, I think they just need to realize when their timings are. When can we actually fight over objectives? The second Drake just wasn't it, and on top of that, I think they need to look a little bit closer at their draft as well, where they don't really have a reliable engage option. Shlatan on the Lee Sin didn't really have great things to do, and while the draft did have some very good positives, which was side lane dominance, you know, good scaling between their two carries, the Braum plus the Lee Sin Mordekaiser, between those three champions, they need something that can actually, you know, go forward and make plays happen.
Yeah, that was actually exactly what I wanted to tackle, the fact that Shlatan had no way, shape or form into getting on a lane and being proactive into the early game. And of course, sure, you can have that late game policy, but I did find the Braum a little bit of a miss on the entirety of the draft. I get the point that you want to grab it away from LDLC, force them onto the bud, but at the end of the day, being there to have the Unbreakable just for the Trusha Barrage, I don't think it's that worth it.
Well, look, K1ck have side selection in game 2. They've picked red side. Trouble, if you didn't like the Braum, do you think any other big changes are going to happen? TynX got his hands on Trundle and he still had a huge impact. So I want to see whether or not they can slow his ability in the early game down.
See, the problem right here is because Braum doesn't provide you with any hard engage or a jump on the backline. They couldn't reach the Ezreal, and I kept on mentioning, he's like, it doesn't matter if they kill everyone, the Ezreal is gonna get untouched the entirety of this fight. So something like a Rakan that can jump in together with the Corki and the Lee Sin, it could potentially give them that extra hard CC and lockdown that they need on the ADC of LDLC to bring them down.
Well, we'll find out if they can. LDLC have struck first, but they still need to win 2 more games to win the title. Let's see if Polska Gurum can strike back in the next game.